Everybody ready? Okay. If everybody ready, we will begin. Good afternoon. I'm attorney Ben Crump, along with attorney Natalie Jackson. We have the honor of representing the family of Gerald Neal. Present with us is his daughter, Shaquille Neal, his sister, Kim, his niece, Sierra, and a whole host of other family members who loved and cared for him. We are here demanding justice for Gerald Neal. And we know to get justice for Gerald Neal, we first must have transparency so we can get to the truth of what really happened and what killed Gerald Neal. We are very frustrated to have yet again Orlando Police Department kill a member of our community as a result of an unnecessary, an unjustifiable, and an unconstitutional high-speed chase. We have Ms. LaWanda Hall, who's an activist in this community, who has documented many of these tragedies over the years, where in the black communities, they violate policies and procedures and have these dangerous high-speed chases that end up with the death of our loved ones. And that's why we're demanding transparency. We need the Orlando police chief to explain, not just to this family, but to the community. Why was this car doing a high-speed chase just because it was an unreadable license plate? I mean, when it first happened, my investigator, Cliff Jones, and I were talking to the family, talking to Sierra, and we were saying, well, what happened? Did somebody get kidnapped? Did somebody get killed? I mean, why were they having a high-speed chase through the community? And turns out when we get the police report, and from everything we can see, he was chasing him because he couldn't read his license plate and that the person didn't stop. Really? Really? Is that the reason you activate a high-speed chase and put people's lives in danger? I mean, it's troubling to us because we don't see this happen to other communities. But it seems to happen over and over again in the predominantly black communities of Orlando. And how many more hashtags before we say we're not going to allow this in any community, not in any of the black communities, not in any of the brown communities, not in any of the white communities. We're not going to allow in any communities because we know it's foreseeable that people will be killed and you will have heartbroken families trying to pick up the pieces. And it is truly, this family is heartbroken. And you'll hear from his daughter in just a minute, who will tell you about what a wonderful father he was, what a wonderful man he was, hardworking, and how much he loved his family. And we get it. You know, society is not kind always. And so people hear that he's homeless and they make all kind of assumptions. Well, until you know the story, you shouldn't make those assumptions. It's so unfair to his family. His sister, she's just so troubled, and she'll talk a little bit about it too, as well as his daughter. But Gerald Neal was a good, hardworking man who faced just horrific tragedies recently. In 2023, in a 12-month period, he lost his wife, he lost his brother, and he lost his mother. He buried and his son. He buried his wife, his son, and his mother in a 12-month period. It had, as anyone would expect, emotional and psychological toll on him. After that, he came back to the area what he knew from what he grew up in. He was dealing with mental issues. He didn't have to be homeless. He had family members who wanted him to stay with them after his wife died and he left the home. But he was dealing with mental issues, and they prayed that he would get the help he needed to deal with the traumatic tragedies that he was dealing with. And tragically, he never got that help he needed because this police officer engaged in this high-speed chase that led to his death. They talked to the witnesses. They talked to the witnesses who told them, you know, the person who was being chased by the police, they hit him and knocked him to the side, but he was okay. He was hit, but he wasn't dead or anything. But then they said a few seconds later, this is based on the witness accounts to the family, that then the police car came and rolled up on him while he was on the ground and the tire was on top of his body. And the witness said, right then, they were like, you hit somebody. And they said the cop got out and didn't pay them any attention and just ran after the person he was pursuing. I mean, having seemed to what the witnesses said, no care or consideration for the person who they said you just hit. And tragically, he didn't just hit him, but his car rolled up on top of his body. And for a significant amount of time, the car was on top of his body. The other people had to call 911 to tell them that a police car was on top of their friend's body. And they said that it was 30 minutes or so, 33 minutes that the car was on top of his body. Just very tragic on so many levels. They took him to the hospital, and unfortunately, he didn't survive the tragedy. The crux of the matter is this. The family needs transparency. The community needs transparency. Who was this officer? Why did he not follow the policies and procedures? Why was he chasing the person in the first place? And did it warrant such a dangerous, deadly, high-speed chase? We want transparency to get to the truth, to get some measure of justice for Gerald Neal. He did not deserve to be killed this way. He did not deserve it. And so we vow to fight until we get those answers. We're going to explore every possible legal remedy to get to the truth, to get some measure of justice for this broken-hearted family. At this time, you're going to hear from Attorney Natalie Jackson, and then we'll have you speak to the family. Attorney Jackson is based here in Central Florida and has a lot of the historical knowledge of why this is a persistent problem. Attorney Jackson.
Yeah. Good afternoon. I'm Attorney Natalie Jackson, Co-Director of Litigation for Ben Crump Law. So one of the things that we are most concerned about in this case is that we read stories about the police having policies and them having very good policies about these type of things, these type of chases not happening. However, we do know if you have a policy that is not enforced or is not adhere to, there might be something wrong with the way that police officers are getting the information about these policies and their responsibility to adhere to these policies. I say that because we have Mr. Neal's family who is standing before us. In 2023, there was Delvi Alvarez's family who stood before you. She was a young lady who was in a car accident. She died. Well, it wasn't a car accident. She was hit by an OPD officer, and there was a passenger in the car. So these policies were there then. So what we're going to be looking at to see if there's any sort of systemic issues within the police department that allows them to do this thing, especially to the harm and detriment of Black and brown communities and communities that are vulnerable. So thank you. That's all that I have.
Thank you very much, Attorney Jackson. At this time, you're going to hear from Mr. Neal's only living child, and you know, it's emotional. She never thought she would be standing in a press conference saying, "I want the truth for my dad to come out. I want justice for my dad," and just bearing her heart. Really making the appeal, just like you love your family, we love our family too. And if it wouldn't be acceptable for them to do a high-speed chase in your community, then why is it acceptable for them to do a high-speed chase in our community? And so, again, it's very emotional, but she's going to do her best. Ms. Shanquelle Neal. Take your time.
Excuse me. As Attorney Crump stated, I am Shaquille Neal, Gerald Neal's only surviving child. My dad was very loved, very, very loved. He left behind 5 grandkids. So it wasn't just me. Left behind 5 grandchildren who would never, ever get the pleasure of growing up with him, which is unfair. He left behind my aunt, his other sisters, my cousins, his nieces, nephews, siblings. It's just unfair. In a year's time, my father lost his wife, and then my brother, and then my grandmother. He chose to be homeless. That was his way of grieving. He's always had somewhere to go. When I first moved back from New York, not even 2 years ago, he was with me. And as I stated earlier, just so many losses. So he went back to what he knew to keep the burden off of the family. He did not have to be out there. He chose to be out there. He wasn't even out there for 2 weeks. Because before that, he was with me. 2 weeks. 2 weeks was all it took for OPD to hit and kill my father. 2 weeks. It's not fair. We want justice. We deserve to be heard. Mm-hmm. The image that they portray of my father is not true. He chose that life. He didn't have to live that life. He chose that life. It's
no. And the first thing that Shanquelle told us was that my dad was dealing with so much. Many Americans are dealing with mental health issues who become homeless. And so we should not stereotype them because they're going through mental trauma. We should have compassion and empathy. And please continue to pray for her and this family. You and your daughter, anybody else want to say that?
What you want to say something?
I love my grandfather.
Okay, well, you got to say another.
Oh, I love my grandfather.
Yeah. He was in the house with us. He's always, even when we lived in New York, he was in New York with his daughter. My brother was living there, my brother, and his grandkids. He didn't deserve it. This is avoidable.
Yes.
This whole thing was really avoidable, and there's been no accountability whatsoever.
Exactly.
How selfish to not even reach out to say sorry, my sympathies, nothing. Like he meant absolutely nothing, which is not true. He has a huge family. We all loved him. Everybody loved. It's been a rough year for us. Yes. Can you imagine losing 3 people within 12 months? So imagine how that was on my dad. He took a major loss. And now on top of the loss that he took, now we're taking another loss because he's not here. They just left him there under the truck like a piece of meat, like he meant nothing.
Wow.
Like he meant absolutely nothing.
Wow.
And we still don't have any answers. Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, and she underscored a lot of the stuff. He didn't want to be a financial burden to his daughter, his sister. Thank you. We'll hear from his sister, Kim, and then you hear from one other family member before we start to taking questions.
My name is Kim Yvette Neal. I was born to Jeremiah Neal and Carolyn Van Story. I have 4 brothers. I am the only girl. Gerald was my favorite brother. When I got my divorce, he moved in the house with me. He helped me raise my 3 daughters. Nobody else was there. He was there. That's just the type of person he was. He stayed and babysitted my kids so I can work and so I can get a career and be self-sufficient when it came to my family. He sacrificed, and he did that for me, and I will always love him. I don't care what people think about him. I don't care what people say about him because I knew who he was, and I knew why he was in that area. That was a familiar area. That was the area we grew up in. We lived on 2 houses on 19th Street in Rio Grande. So that was where all his friends and co-workers and, all elderly people that we grew up in the same neighborhood, that was where he was familiar with, and that's why he wanted to be over there. And I love him, and I pray that he's in peace, and we're going to stand for you, Gerald.
Amen.
No matter what your lifestyle was, no matter how you dealt with mental health illness,
Amen.
Because we know that God is greater,
Yes.
and we know God's going to see us through this to the end.
Amen. Justice for Gerald Neal. Justice. And the final person you hear from before you hear from the activist is his niece, Sierra Range.
Hello, my name is Sierra Range. I'm an advocate for this city. This is the city that I love and I grew up in. I just want to say that my uncle, he wasn't just collateral damage. He was someone who was loved and he was cherished. He was a huge part of all of my childhood core memories. He was the fun uncle that you could play with. He would stay up late with you. He would allow you to eat ice cream. He was that type of uncle. When it comes to this community, I just want to encourage everyone to consider that a community is only as strong as the weakest among us. He may have been homeless, but he was human and he was loved.
Amen.
That's it.
Thank you very much, Sierra. At this time, you hear from a community activist who has been with many families who've suffered over the years. For almost 2 decades, she's been standing with families in our community. LaWanda Gelser.
Good afternoon. My name is LaWanda Gelser. I'll just say it. I'm a concerned citizen advocate for the family. But over 3 years ago, the city of Orlando spent $850,000 on a Bowman report reviewing the Orlando Police Department policies. Use of force, pursuits, all of this was covered by the community. And we're saying to you, you've just spent $850,000, and yet we can name numbers of incidents where those policies have been violated. So I say about transparency, Orlando Police Department, once again, is in the spotlight for the wrong reason. It's about public safety. It's about mending and fixing the problems. So once again, we say transparency, but it shouldn't be that. So we're going to definitely keep our eyes open on this, but we've already given solutions to fix the problem. You spent $850,000 of my tax dollars, your tax dollars. We gave you the answers. Follow the policies. If you follow the policies, we won't have families like this. And if you get rid of those officers who do not value the lives of everybody, black, brown, white, it doesn't matter. You must value the lives. And you do not demonize a community because it's predominantly African American, and you look the other way when it comes to the policies. This is wrong. This is wrong, and this is a history of the Orlando Police Department. So I ask you, join us and ask for transparency, because we have said and we've given solutions to this problem. Then we just need them to follow them. Thank you.
Thank you, Luwanda. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
At this time, we'll try to take some of your questions if you have any. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Crump, Catherine Silver with News 6. How certain are you that the Orlando Police Department is responsible for Mr. Neal's death and not the suspect in this case?
Well, that's why we're asking for transparency. What we do know is that you see he's hit by the first car, he's still alive. We know the police vehicle running over him didn't help his condition. And we know he was living when the car hit him, when the police car landed on top of him. And so, but we want transparency. And transparency is good for everybody. It's good for the family and it's good for the officer. If you want to exonerate him, then release the video. Release the body cam video. Release the dash cam video. Then everybody will know.
I have a follow-up.
If that was your family member, wouldn't you be offended that they hadn't reached out to you and told you we're doing everything in our power to get to the truth? They haven't contacted this family. That's a shame before God.
Have you been able to see any video that the police department has, or are you even aware of what video they do have?
No, we, thanks to you and the Media West too, had a good video that showed the car on top of him. But no, we haven't seen any of the dash cam video or the body cam video. And we understand from the witnesses and what we see of the video is an unmarked car. So, I mean, how would the public even know a chase was going on?
Is the video?
They don't do that. They don't do that in other communities.
Is the video you're referencing the one that was the surveillance video from the convenience store?
Yes, and there may be some cell phone videos too that we're trying to get from people who were there.
Gotcha. And is your contention then that not only did the cop car run him over, but like when it came to a stop, it was resting on his body? Is that?
That's what the family has been told by first-hand eyewitness accounts. Yes. And that's why we need the video from the police, body cam, and dash cam.
So Ben or Lawanted, so pursuit policies are listed on law enforcement websites. OPD's shows that it was changed in January of this year. Have you noticed any significant changes from an updated policy that was released this year versus what their previous policy was?
No policies, and I do want to emphasize in that report, we said release the body cams within 24 hours. So all of this was covered. So when they're asking for transparency, do not hide behind FDLE. So we reviewed most of those policies, and they really didn't change that much.
So is there anything in the OPD policy that you guys are either disputing or want to see changed specifically?
Follow the policies, then you would have done the pursuit at all. The policy's not through a residential community, and it was like Attorney Crump said, there was no reason. So especially not through a residential community. You should not do that. And that's in the policies.
And I think, if I may, and that's one of the things that we're going to be looking into, because we see these policies in our cases. There are written policies, but are the policies followed? What is the custom? What is the custom of that police department? Do they allow it? Do they say, is there a wink and a nod to it in certain places? So that's what we're finding out. What is the systemic issues in these police departments that allow policies to be ignored?
Yes, good.
Is the solution then, better training on policies then, if it's in
Well,
place, or?
you know, we always talk about training, but it really is about the discipline. What are the consequences of officers violating policies? They should be terminated. They should be held to the fullest extent of the law. I mean, they killed the man. The family certainly believes that it was the police car on top of his body that killed him. And, you know, what are the consequences for that? Does he get to continue to be on the force and violate policies and have other people die? Or is it only when certain people die that you hold them accountable because you say that certain people's lives don't matter? And that's what we continue to advocate for over and over again in these cases in Orlando, Florida, and all across America, to say, hold on, why have the policies if you're not going to follow them? Policies are written because we know that if you don't follow these policies, it's foreseeable that people are going to get hurt. People are going to die. So that it's about safety. It's about safety for everybody. It boggles my mind. Like, what was it that he felt he could do this high-speed chase through this community? And would he have done it through a white community?
College Park, no.
And that's what the crux of the matter is. Any other questions?
Yes, Shaquille, if you don't mind, I know it's tough for you, but I'm just curious, when you were notified, I assume you were the first to be notified as next of kin, was there any details from OPD of what they saw, or how you were told information?
They haven't told me anything. I learned everything from the hospital. OPD has not reached out to me at all.
Can you
And
get up front of the mic?
Would you mind saying that again?
They haven't contacted me at all. I haven't spoken to them at all. All of my information came from the hospital when I went.
And since this has happened, have you tried requesting any sit-downs with OPD, or have you tried seeking information, for yourself?
I don't know if that burden should be on a grieving person. I think that question, if they tried to reach out to OPD, I think that, number one, even just getting down to the taxes that I'm sure this family is not thinking about, but when you have funeral bills for someone who was innocently killed, when you have all of the things, the financial burdens of that comes along with it, I do think that a call to the family is warranted. I don't think that the family should have to reach out to you.
That's what I'm trying to get at. What kind of information were they able to obtain or reach? That sounds like there's a lot of information that would like to be obtained or received, and I'm trying to gather what was able to or attempted to.
Yeah, well, right now we are actually requesting a lot of information. They reached out to our law firm to help them get answers to why their father was killed by Orlando Police Department in a high-speed chase in a residential neighborhood. They want transparency. They want to know who was the officer. They go in detail into the background of the person who was killed, but they ain't doing nothing to explain the background of the person who actually killed the person. That is always troubling to our community. They try to, I guess, for lack of a better word, assassinate character by putting out a lot of stuff that is less than wholesome about the person who's dead. Well, tell us about the person who ran over him, who got out the car and left his car on top of him and went and pursued the person he was chasing, as if the person I hit, oh man, shouldn't I call for rescue? I've been just told I hit somebody. I'm troubled why he didn't realize he hit somebody, But the family, they've been dealing with a lot of loss. And certainly, none of the burden should be on them to try to go to the public elected officials or the leaders of the city and say, please tell us what happened. The leaders should want to come to them and say, we know this, we're still trying to find out more information, but we're going to make sure we get to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth of what happened. That has not been done. We expect the Orlando leadership in the police department to reach out to this family now. They can call our office, they can set up a time to offer their condolences and try to tell this family why this happened or why it's unacceptable that it happened.
And we talked a lot about how Gerald Neal died, but I want to know about how he lived. What are some of the things that y'all are going to miss about him most?
You want to go first, and then we'll have each of the family members say. I know he worked in landscaping, and everybody talked about him being a hard worker to try to provide for his family. And after his wife died, the tragedy of that there, and then he moved back to Orlando, and his mother, his family were there, and unfortunately, his mother then died. He had to bury his son. And as you heard from his daughter, he was feeling like he was a financial burden to people, so he chose to just go fend for himself, even though he couldn't afford at that time to get the proper mental help that they felt he needed. It's a real issue in America, but I'll let the family talk about what they're going to miss most about him, and then we'll end the press conference.
I'm going to miss just him. I'm going to miss him holding me up after taking so many losses. I'm going to miss him at 2:30 in the morning. I can just run to him and just bawl because I miss my brother so much. And that was his son. I'm going to miss him singing to me. I'm going to miss us singing together. Oh my gosh, I'm going to miss him cooking for me. I'm going to miss him as a person. I'm going to miss the fact that you're never going to see me walk down the aisle. I'm going to just, oh my gosh.
Kim.
Gerald was a year older than me, so we like a year and 26 days apart. His birthday was May 2nd, mine May 28th. So me and him always had that. He wanted to be the big brother, and I wasn't having it. So we was really close, like really, really close. He loved to pray. He was a great singer. He loved God. He knew the Word of God. He loved his family tremendously. I mean, he loved everybody. And he could make you laugh. He spoke to strangers. He would treat a stranger like they was his best friend. Nobody was a stranger to Gerald. I mean, he would always bring a smile to your face. And that's just who he was. He had a big heart. He was a good man. And it's tragic that he had to lose his life doing what he loved to do, hanging out with his friends and in a specific spot. And that's what torments me, because he died where he loved being at.
Anybody else?
I just want to say my uncle, just like my Aunt Kim was saying, Gerald has always been that brother to me. Although he's my uncle, we grew up so close together. And I just know that how loving towards his family he is and will always be. And that's the part that we all going to miss about Gerald, that loving part that he brought to our family, the laughter that he brought to our family. And so that's enough to just, I don't know how you replace that. So we really want justice, and we want to seek, the truth and transparency.
Amen. Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll just say this last thing. I'm going to miss the joy that my uncle brought to every room. He was truly the fun uncle. Goodness. I'm gonna miss the joy that he brought into every room.
You want to say anything, sir?
Oh, yes, I'll say something. I'm going to miss my uncle. My name is Dr. Robinson. I'm going to miss my uncle very deeply. I'm just choked up at the fact that after working in mental health for 37 years in this area and serving on various boards, as well as hospital administrators, that no one has reached out to us to talk about or even extend their condolency or to provide transparency. So we're just seeking justice. We're seeking justice about this.
Thank you very much. Absolutely.
My uncle was, he was really like a father to me. I'm gonna miss him greatly. He's the one that taught me how to cook and do all of the things that I needed to be a great adult. It deeply saddens me that this happened to him.
We'll continue to keep you updated. If you all get any, ask the questions. If we can't get information, you know, the fourth branch of government is the media. Now more than ever, we need the media to ask questions of us and of the police. All of us should be held accountable. Thank you for your time, and we keep praying for the family of Gerald Neal, and we keep fighting for justice for Gerald Neal.
Yeah, justice for Gerald.
Justice for Gerald Neal.
Before you all leave, if it's not too much trouble, is it possible we could get all your names and the proper spelling of your names?
Certainly.
Yes. Spell it.
Yes,
Spell your name, please.
Thank you for that.
Shaquille Neal, SHAQUAIL, then NEAL.
Ms. Kim, order.
Kim, Kim, Yvette, YVETTE, Neal, NEAL, Davis, DAVIS.
Sierra Range, SIERRA, Range RAINGE.
Jarrell Safford, JEREL SAFFORD.
Mariah Griffin, MRIIYAAGRIFFIN.
Oh, she went fast. Mama, you want to spell her name?
Yes, Mariah, MORIYAH. Last name Griffin, GRIFFIN.
Thank you.
Larry Robinson, ROBINSON.
Jamir, JAHMEIR, Neal, NEAL.
Did you ever say? Okay. Yes, sir.
Robert Griffin, ROBERT, GRIFFIN, Jr.
Thank you all. We'll continue to keep you updated.
And if there's, sorry, one more thing. To my knowledge, we don't have any photographs of Mr. Neal. I was wondering if the family could provide any that we could.
Attorney, if you press at bencrump.com, we'll get them to you within the hour.
Yeah, so if everyone would just email press, PRESS, at bencrump.com, they'll disseminate it to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Sure.
Thank you.
Chris, you want to read back to the officer?
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
NETA.